Okay, it being 5 p.m., the Lafourche Parish Council meeting of June 9, 2020 is hereby called to order. Ms. Carleen, can you please do a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones. Here. Mr. Adams. Here. Mr. Grow. Here. Mr. Melvin. Here. Mr. Wendell. Here. Mr. Perlew is out. Mr. Otem.
Here.
Ms. Boudreau. Here. Mr. Lorraine. Mr. Chasson.
Here.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carleen. So everyone's in attendance except for Corey, who had a procedure done a couple of weeks ago, and he's still in the doctor's care. Hasn't been released as of yet. I want to first start off by thanking everyone for respecting each other and wearing a mask. It's certainly pleasing to see everyone as such. And also, I'll just make mention, the reason you see the chairs spread out is because of the 50% requirement and 6 foot by the State Fire Marshal's office. So I want to thank the administration for setting up both the chairs as well as setting up the video feeds for Facebook Live. I would ask if anyone is in here to please not view the Facebook Live because we're scared we may get some interference and cause us some problems. So that's a request by our IT group. I think that's the only announcements I have. With that said, if everyone would please rise, we'll be led in invocation by Councilman Wendell and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Melvin.
And Father, Son, Holy Spirit. As we gather here tonight, please give us the wisdom and strength to make wise decisions as we journey to keep Lafourche home and the best place in Louisiana to live. 2020 has definitely tested us with COVID, some civil unrest, and now we're in our tropical season. Bless all who have been impacted by this and look over and protect us as we move forward during these times. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So once again, I want to thank everyone that has made it here. We have a nice attendance, which is always nice. I would remind all the council members when you press your mic to please talk close, loud, and clear into the mics. The way we're recording it is not quite the same, so it's a little more difficult for them to hear. So if you can speak close to your mic and loud, certainly appreciate it. With that said, I'll move to item A, approval of minutes. Number one, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the May 26, 2020 regular session. Motion by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Grove. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Perlew. Item B, we have nothing, correct, Ms. Carleen? Brings us to item C, executive session. At this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to enter the executive session for the following. Number 2, LARS 4217A. 2, discussion regarding national prescription opioid litigation, MDL 02804, and Purdue Pharma LP, docket number 1923649, which will be Councilman Grove for the administration. To go into executive session, Mr. Grove, got a second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that being Mr. Perlew. And coming into executive session for the record will be the full council, Parish President Archie Chasson, Parish Administrator Mitch Ogeron, District Attorney's Office represented by Lisa Ogeron, and law firm represented by Mr. Leger, Mr. Eric Santana, and Mr. Frank Shaw. So if everyone would just please hang tight, hopefully we're not too long into the executive session. Okay, I got a motion on the floor by Mike Grove, seconded by Bo Melvin to reconvene the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that being Mr. Perlew. I'll entertain a motion in a second to take any necessary action regarding matters that were discussed in executive session. Moved by Councilman Wendell, second by Councilman Grove. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absent, that being Mr. Perlew. Now, to be specific, item D, action from executive session. So a resolution approving a contract between Lafourche Parish Government and Leger and Shaw and Santana and Blanchard LLC for legal services in connection with claims for recovery of civil damages recoverable from various opioid manufacturers and distributors for attorney fees and costs, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said contract and any and all relevant documents. This is moved by Councilman Grove for the administration, second by Councilman Jones. Any discussion? One time. 2 times, 3 times, there being none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that being Mr. Perillo. Item E, executive session, has been pulled by the administration. Is that correct, Mr. President? So that is pulled. We've already taken, that makes us skip number F as well. Item G, presentations and or updates. I don't think we don't have anything to announce this go around. So item H, engineers, architect reports. I know there's a few in the audience. Any of them want to give a report? Good to see y'all again.
Good evening, David Waits, Engineering and Surveying.
Is the mic on? Nope. There you go. Good.
Okay. David Waits, Engineering and Surveying. I have 2 projects to report on. One is the priority road list for 2019. I'm not sure if y'all are aware, but the base work has all been completed. We proposed and got a change order for the amount of $120,450 for some additional streets. That notice to proceed was issued Monday because of the weather. They are going to start on, I think, tomorrow, Wednesday. And I don't know if you have any questions. Those streets are Hidalgo, Plantation Road, and LaRousse.
Anyone from the council got any inquiry on the road list? Changes, orders? Nope.
Second project is, I'm sorry.
Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That by Capital One, the old Capital One Bank,
Yes.
that part is included too,
That is correct.
right? And the far end of Plantation?
That is
By St.
correct.
Bernard. All right, thank you.
Good.
Any other question? Okay.
Nope, that's it. You can continue.
The second project is the ditch improvements from Fairway to Percy Brown, and we're just beginning to work on that. The survey's being done, and we're working on preliminary plans, and that's all I have to report on that one as well. If there's any
Okay.
questions?
Anyone have any questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. John Plaisance with GIS Engineering. It is nice to see y'all. The only project that
Same
I have to
here.
report on is West 217th. It's been so long since I've been here that we started it, we finished it. It's all done. I did send some pictures. I don't know if y'all had gotten them. There will be a change order. We haven't gotten the final quantities. We expect it to be a deduction in the contract price, but just want to let y'all know that.
Good. Anyone got anything of Mr. Plaisance? Nope. Good. Thank you so much.
you.
Appreciate it. Good to see you again. All right, Stevie.
Okay, Stevie Smith with All South Consulting Engineers. I have 3 projects to report on, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. The first one is the work we're doing for the parish government relative to FEMA program management. We're helping you retrieve or get some money back for the expenses you incurred in Hurricane Barry last year. We had 3 different PWs that we're assisting you with. One of them is for debris removal work that occurred, had a value of about $150,000. This PW has been obligated by FEMA, which means they've committed to repay you. You're in the process of getting reimbursed that money as we speak. The second part of the FEMA work is some emergency protective measures. This is some work that was done by your staff and with your equipment. This totals about $300,000. That work has also been obligated by FEMA, and you're in the process of getting reimbursed for those dollars. And the third part of our FEMA work for the parish is also some emergency protective measures that we did in Pointe-aux-Chenes. This has a value of about $421,000. We have been going back and forth a little bit with FEMA about the scope of work on that work. We did a site visit with FEMA and GOSEP about a week and a half ago to look at the location of this work. Again, I don't have any anticipation of when the FEMA is actually gonna obligate those dollars. I haven't heard any negative feedback on that last item lately, but with FEMA and GOSEP, you frankly just never know. If I could, I'll move on to the next project, which is our Alador Levee and Pump Station project. So this council awarded the first phase of the Alador project to LA Contracting at a previous council meeting. We've been moving contract paperwork back and forth with LA Contracting and the parish. I believe the parish has the contract for execution. I'm not sure if the parish president executed in the last couple of days, but it was on his way to his desk. Again, phase one of the Alador project is to do 3 new pipes drilled under the railroad right-of-way at the back of Alador. When that project is complete, we're gonna put out to bid the second phase, which is actually building a new pump station at the back of Alador. Again, that project, once we have the contract paperwork set up, we'll give them a notice to proceed, and they'll get started on that in the next month or so. The third project I have to report on to the council is the Lafourche Parish Government Trailhead Project. These are some improvements that are planned for the parking lot in the area in front of this building. This is a grant that the parish acquired from DOTD. It's somewhat of a beautification project in front. It includes a little plaza, some green space in front of the building. We've been in discussions with the parish about how to adjust that project to get within budget. The project as originally proposed was a little bit larger than the grant and the local funding would allow to be completed. So we've been in discussions with the parish government on how to right size it to keep it within the budget. So we haven't finished design on that yet, but once we get it to where it's right size, we will finish design. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone got any questions for Stevie? I got one question, Stevie. Who interacts with the railroad? That's a UP line, I'm assuming that's going, to put those lines underneath. Who interacts with them? Your firm or LA Contracting?
So we have led negotiations with them. We actually had to get a permit from the railroad to do that crossing. I think it's a BNSF railroad, Burlington
Yeah.
Northern Santa Fe.
They run the local line.
And they are sometimes hard to deal with. It's a railroad company. But we have negotiated with them. The parish has acquired a permit, from them to do this crossing. And they also require you that you pay for them to have one of their people there when you're doing the crossing to control, not only to control train traffic, just to make sure everybody operates safely. But to answer your question directly, is we have negotiated with them on behalf of the parish.
You have contacts with BNSF?
Yes.
Okay.
You need to get in touch with somebody, I'll be happy to share.
Well,
the
no, I've been
contacts.
working on years, so there's a seemingly abandoned line that runs from Raceland to Valentine. The same line.
Yes.
It's a little short line. And it runs perpendicular, unfortunately, to drainage. So hundreds of landowners and parish right-of-ways, drainage runs perpendicular to the abandoned line. There's been nothing on the line in 11 years, and there's been no maintenance.
Right.
So I've been working with the government affairs person with UP, because Union Pacific ultimately owns the line. BNSF has a contract to run the line, but it's UP that owns it. And so anyway, it's been a challenge, and I was just wondering if you had somebody inside that maybe we can exchange information.
Yeah, let's talk tomorrow. I mean, I definitely have some contacts over there and probably have some other ideas where we might be able to bring them to the table a little bit more, so. We'll
Good.
talk tomorrow.
Good deal. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Any further engineers, architects? There being none, we'll move to item I, public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items, et cetera. I will just mention to the council and to the public that in previous meetings, we allowed for anyone that wanted to comment on an agenda item, they could submit it by fax, email, et cetera. We had none for this meeting, correct?
That's
Ms.
correct,
Carleen?
none.
My intention is to continue that option for the remainder of my term as the chairman. I think it's just good if anyone's unable to make the meeting that they can still submit a comment as long as it doesn't get out of hand. So we'll continue doing that. With that said, Ms. Carleen, can you read your public wish and address the council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Louisiana State Representative Brian Fontenot, if you'd approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. Representative Fontenot.
Thank you. Brian Fontenot, Louisiana State Representative, 406 West 3rd Street in Thibodaux. Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Mr. Parish President, I wanted to share with you where we were at legislative-wise, what we've accomplished in the first session of this year, and obviously where do we stand at in a special session that is currently ongoing right now. As of tomorrow, we'll be voting on the budget for fiscal year 2021. But let me just kind of start off with the budget for the remaining of this year. We faced a significant shortfall, obviously due to COVID. we was able to have about a $563 million surplus that filled that gap. So this year's budget is obviously in good shape. Next year's budget, the Revenue Estimating Committee has given us a $1.2 billion shortfall, for which we're going to fill that with some cuts and $900 million in CARES Act money. What I want to kind of talk about with CARES Act money is maybe some indiscrepancies that you may not have heard, but there was, from the United States Congress, there was a percentage of the $1.8 billion sent to the state that was allotted for local governments. That number equated to 45% or $810 million. From a legislative standpoint, the administration and Mr. Darden has recommended to us that he thought the entire state on a local level was probably only looking at about a $250 million of that money. One question that we've repeatedly asked, and I've met with the parish president on numerous occasions, was could the money be used for lost revenues, lost tax revenues that you have? And the answer is absolutely not. It can only be used to fund those monies that you use to combat COVID and deal with COVID issues, not to recover lost revenue. So from a legislative standpoint, when we finished the last session on the 1st, we appropriated $300 of the $810 million that was set to go to local governments. We set $300 million aside that would be what we call Main Street recovery, and that was set out for $10,000 grants for small business owners. The things that I'll talk about today are things that we've passed on both chambers. I can't speak on behalf of the governor. Some of these items remain on the governor's desk to be signed. But of that $810 million, $300 we appropriated for small businesses. Again, whether the governor chooses to sign that, but either way, he's got to get appropriated funds from the legislature. So getting back to 2021's budget, I can tell you we used $900 million in CARES Act money to offset that. We spent another $90 million in budget stabilization. We fully fund TOPS. We fully funded MFP, K through 12 education. And we are facing a $22 million shortfall in higher education, which would be evenly distributed amongst all higher education systems, including Nichols. But Nichols and other universities have gotten federal funds. Nichols was in line for about $5.2 million. So we think that ultimately they will be okay. Some issues that I think that obviously face our parish that we pass, again, waiting on governor's signature, is we as a legislative body has passed legislation that would reduce the oil severance tax from 12.5% to 8.5% over a period of 8 years. The fiscal note for the state is $510 million. The loss to Lafourche Parish, Archie and I spoke in the last couple hours, is estimated at about $1.6 million. If you extrapolate that out to just 4%, it's probably only a net loss to Lafourche Parish of about $65,000. I would say that being we are the beacon and the gateway to the Gulf of Mexico, I think we have to hang our hats and believe that a reduction in the severance tax is going to produce jobs in this industry, things that we're going to be able to tax, services and goods for this parish that we certainly should be able to offset $67,000. So that's where we are on severance tax. We suspended the franchise tax to help small businesses that have a net income of less than $300,000. Let's talk about capital outlay, because that's really the dollars that you guys see here in Lafourche Parish. And this was a learning process, obviously, for myself. I'm very grateful to have Representative McGee and Representative Zarang, who's helped lead the charge for us. So in the capital outlay dollars, as we stand today at HB2, which is going to be debated again this week, we put in guaranteed money, $1.2 million for the bridge from 3235 to the Galeana Airport, working with, I'm pretty sure that's a Lafourche project, that's not a port project, but working with the port, there is some federal dollars and local dollars that we needed to secure, so we didn't lose that. So we've got some guaranteed money there. In the port, we also put $5.6 million for the bridge to Fouchon Island. We're working on $3 million for North Lafourche levy and $4 million for South Lafourche levy district. Another $1.2 million is in capital outlay dollars for the Canal Street Bridge in Thibodaux, which we believe is going to get the engineering underway. So it was a start from zero. I've had a lot of calls about capital outlay. I recently spoke to Councilman Jones, and I really believe that if you see Archie, you know what Archie does every day. He's at the Capitol regularly fighting for Lafourche Parish. And I would commend you for the way that this council has conducted itself in the last 6.5 months. That is the only way that we will be successful on a local and state level. And having the ability to pick up the phone at every second and talk to Archie and bring him to the Capitol to work with me is the only way we're going to secure these fundings to keep our parish moving. So certainly thank you for the way that this has been going for our parish on behalf of myself and obviously our constituents. As far as capital outlay, I think as a parish as a whole, we probably need to just get a priority list. Obviously, we have bridges, but we have other outlying issues that people have asked for. Friends of Bayou Lafourche is looking for several $1 million to build its boat dock or something near the Bayou Lafourche by Nichols. That's been taken completely off the table right now. There's been some discussion with Councilman Jones about funding for some projects out by Heroes Park. That too has been sidelined because of lack of funding. I think our priorities, obviously, the coroner's office is in desperate need. Bridges, getting the port, the elevated portion into Golden Meadow into the port is obviously crucial. So those are the things we're working on. I'm not quite sure if representatives ever came to, speak with you, but I think it's important to have this dialogue, that you understand what I'm working on, I understand what you're working on, and the only way for you and I to be a success for this parish is to have that open dialogue. I'll finish with this. Both Archie and I obviously had the opportunity to memorialize our good friend and Mr. Reggie Bagala. Tomorrow at 4:30, Archie, Doug Sheremy is here. Myself and members from the port will be with the governor to sign Representative Bagala's only bill that he produced. So it's certainly been an honor for me to be able to speak on his behalf and his family's behalf, but it was equally as honoring to have Archie there with me and represent our great friend, Representative Bagala. So if you have any questions for me, I certainly would be glad to answer them for you.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Fontenot, you said our project on Heroes Park is off the table, the center. Hopefully in a couple of years, if things pick up, that we can reconsider. And,
Councilman, I certainly believe that it's very important, but let me share, under the previous administration, I brought several entrepreneurs to the table that were willing to invest in Heroes Park to the tune of about $4.5 million, and that was turned down by the previous parish president. I would encourage you to pass just 2 blocks from that park now, and those same investors have put about $3 million on the table. They had probably 500 people at a private park. So we have to expand our horizon, not only in capital outlay, but in the ability to communicate and partner with businesses, especially in recreation issues that can bring those developments to us. Look, I want to entertain that in capital outlay. I believe this, and I've said this for quite some time, that the people from St. Charles to Lockport has been left out in so many issues. One of those projects that I would like to see, and I've spoken to the parish president about, is some changes at the agriculture center there where they have rodeos. Again, that is second priority right now, so we can get our levees complete and some of these roads and bridges fixed. But we certainly want to do it.
Thank you, Brian. And I want to thank you and commend you because I know you're a first responder. You've kind of been a little pit bull in Baton Rouge, and I appreciate that. And don't think it doesn't go unnoticed because we all talk about it. So we appreciate the efforts on behalf of law enforcement, firefighters, et cetera, what you're doing in Baton Rouge. And as far as in the last 4 years, I want to say Beryl Almady is really the only person that regularly comes and gives reports. So kudos to you and thank you. We appreciate you, and it just goes to show you about your passion for Lafourche. So thanks again, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Joseph Ogeron, if you'd approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, Mr. Ogeron.
Joseph Ogeron, 18903 East Main Street in Galliano, Louisiana, and I am a candidate for State Representative District 54. And I'm here to introduce myself. Many of y'all here know me from most of my life, but I'm here to introduce myself to those that might not know me and to make my point on why I believe I'm the best candidate for the state reps seat. Born and raised in Golden Meadow in South Lafourche, District 9 for the vast majority of my life. Graduated in the middle of an oil and gas downturn and was asked to go and get an education in something other than the family boat business. Went and got went to Nichols. Well, graduated from South Lafourche, went to Nichols, got a 4-year degree in physics, continued on and got a doctorate, or earned my doctorate at the University of Texas at Dallas. After that, I could have moved back down the bayou and joined the family business, but I opted to go work for M&M Mars, the candy company, where I lived in New Jersey, and I was able to work for a global international company, travel the world, get international business experience, and live in New Jersey, where I got to experience 4 seasons in the year. But 8 years and 3 daughters later and no family infrastructure, I realized I needed to move back down the Bayou and gained an intense appreciation for the Bayou region. Got back into the family business and worked on economic diversity for the boat business by looking for other projects outside of the bread and butter business of oil and gas, and worked on scientific coring projects with lift boats and offshore wind turbine projects up on the East Coast. A lot of great experiences, a lot of positive outcomes from those. One of them being with America's first offshore wind project due to a lot of people from down the bayou who helped put that up. Also began teaching at Nichols in 2012. My maritime management allowed me to teach Introduction to Maritime Management course in the Department of the College of Business at Nichols. Community-wise, I've been involved in Restore to Retreat. I support all of the projects for CPRE. I've been on that board for 8 years. Also, Fouchon Oilmans was the past president of a charity for Fouchon Oilmans, which supports basically Lafourche, Terrebonne, and Grand Isle areas. And also been the past president of the Fête du Cochon, which is a Cajun cultural preservation organization. So I got basically a vast academic experience with a lot of scientific critical thinking. I also have business experience, both international and local in the oil and gas industry, and quite a bit of community service experience, and I believe this rounds me out. I'm currently able to focus on practically full-time on being the state rep for District 54, and I believe all of those aspects make me the most experienced and qualified candidate for the seat. And I appreciate all of y'all consideration and y'all taking the time to hear me out. Thank you.
Anyone got any questions for Joe? Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you coming out here and talking to us.
Thank you very much.
And I'll mention that you were talking about District 54, and Brian mentioned Reggie. So I faithfully wear a mask since March, all day, every day, being as fire chief and at the chemical plant. But tonight's the first night I wear this LSU one, and it is in memory of our colleague, Mr. Reggie Bogala. Ms. Carlene.
Regional Representative for U.S. Senator Kennedy, Ms. Leah Long, to address the council. If you'd come to the podium, Ms. Long, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Leah Long. It is 1776 Covington. Oh my gosh, I just moved here a month ago, so I'm still learning. 1776 Continental Drive, Covington, Louisiana. I just basically wanted to introduce myself. I am the new regional rep for the North Shore and Bayou area for Senator Kennedy's office. I started a month ago in the middle of a pandemic and moved from Oklahoma City to here. So it's been a crazy time, but like I said, I just want to introduce myself, let you know that I'm here in the area, and if you ever need anything, reach out to me and I will get back to you and help in any way I can.
Very good. Anyone have anything for Ms. Leah? Thank you very much for coming out tonight. We appreciate it, Leah. We all have, everyone has got a card from her, correct? Yes. Contact? Very good. Thanks again.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Moves us to item J, emergency ordinance. We have to change one of the voting precincts. They asked for possibly a special meeting so that we could do a proposal and an ordinance in a quick amount of time, so they would have time to publish. And the district attorney's office reviewed it and said that it fit the definition of an emergency ordinance. So with that said, number 5, emergency ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2-36 of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances to temporarily change the polling location for Ward 2, Precinct 5, St. John Episcopal Church to Courthouse Annex Building to further establish that effective date of the same and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. This will be moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Grow. Anyone from the public would like to comment on this emergency ordinance? One time. Anyone from the public? 2 times. Yes, sir. You come up to. I need you to come up to the mic. You have to state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Earl Woods, 301 Highland Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana. I just want to know, because I know where this church is. I don't vote there, but there's a lot of people that vote there. Would they at least have signs and a good advertisement for them to go to the new voting place?
Mr. Chesson, can you address that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Typically, they advertise it for several weeks prior to the election in the newspaper, but I do also believe, and the Secretary of State's, and I think either the clerk or Mike Boudreau, the registrar of voters, handles that, but if they do switch in an instance like this, they do put up some signs directing them to where the new polling location is.
Yeah, I would hope that the church itself would help to advocate it, since they're the ones that don't want it there. Mr. Jones?
Yes, there will be advertising for the newspaper, the clerk of court, the registered voter, and the state of Louisiana. And it's only for a couple of months, July and August, temporary till this COVID-19 circumvent and get around us.
Very
So
good.
it will be moving back to St. John Church. This is temporary for this election coming up in July.
Very good. Mr. Grove?
I understand too, in talking with Annette, that we have to put somebody there too. We're gonna pay for a body to be there directing traffic too. So not only will be signs, there'll be a person there. And the polling place now is gonna be right down the road, so.
Right.
Very good. Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, call for a third time for anyone from the public wishing to comment. Anyone from the council wishes to discuss this further? There be none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perillo. Item K, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. I entertain a motion to open public hearing. So moved by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that being Mr. Perillo. Item 6, ordinance to reduce the speed limit from 20 miles per hour to 10 miles per hour on the first block of Eclair Drive in front of Creative Learning Daycare, and to install 10 miles per hour speed limit and speed check by radar signs as follows. 1 10 miles per hour speed limit sign to be placed on the right-hand side of the road in the first block when turning onto Eclair Drive, and the second 10 miles per hour speed limit sign to be placed on the right-hand side of the road at the end of the first block when traveling up the street on Eclair Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 1, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed check by radar signs and speed limit signs as designated within this ordinance and providing penalties for the violations thereof. Moved by Councilman Jones, second by Mr. Adams. Anyone from the public would like to comment on this ordinance? 1 time? 2 times? 3 times? Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that being Mr. Perillo. Item 7, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-009 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to correct carryover projects from 2019, deobligate projects, and correct budget adjustments, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Councilman Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. And Mr. President, you have some comments on this?
Yeah, so while Gretchen's hopefully going to get the TV to connect, you guys have a copy of a PowerPoint in front of you. And a lot of it's repetitive, so I won't go through the whole thing in its entirety. But the reason I really wanted to kind of talk about this was because I know if you guys pulled the packet and actually read the bulk of the supplemental, which I think most of you have because some of you have called, we're in a little bit, I don't want to call it a financial crunch because we're not broke by any stretch of the imagination, but there are going to be some shortfalls kind of mid-year for us in the budget. When we came in and started to examine the budget, we realized there were some gaps. So I kind of wanted to run through some things real quick. If you looked at the list of projects inside the supplemental, a lot of it is carryovers, things that we had in the budget that we had to fix regardless, just from, that when we closed the books in 2019. The other part of it was projects that had been in the capital budget for several years and either had small incremental numbers left. We had spent a majority of the money and we had a fund balance left, so we're pulling those out. And some of them are actual projects that we may not get to this year and we probably won't get to this year. And I'm not saying that we won't ever get to them, but just stuff that we know we're not going to be able to get to. So what I'd like to do is take those projects and put them back into the fund balances. And, as we saw this weekend, we're in hurricane season. We can get a storm just about at any point. So I didn't want to put myself in a position where we didn't have fund balances, either in royalty or the general fund or some of these other funds, to be able to buy things in need of an emergency if we had to. So I'll kind of start with just kind of an operational comparison, if it'll flip. Guess it helps if I turn it on. Look at that. There we go. We got a little bit of animation there. So this is kind of a consolidated operating, kind of a comparison that Renita put together, and I want to give her a lot of the credit. She spent the weekend kind of putting this together so we can actually see it. So what we did in this particular case was corrected the beginning fund balances to the tune of about $65 million, and then corrected a lot of the transfer infers. I guess I clicked it one too many times. And corrected a lot of the transfers in and out to the tune of about $720,000. And then there were a lot of the fund balances that were understated by the previous administration to the tune of about $6 million, to where we should have been at 39 million instead of the 33 million that's in there. I'll click it slow this time. There we go. So I'm not gonna, there's a bunch of those in there, and we can go one by one, but a lot of it's gonna be repetitive, so I'm gonna flip through them. But this is kind of the general example of what happened. So in a lot of cases, when they did the budget for 2020, they actually used the wrong millage rate. And I believe Councilman Otan and a couple others had this conversation kind of in the transition, because we kind of picked up on it during the budgeting process as we watched it after the election. So and you look at this, the Parish Council and Criminal Fund, which really is the general fund, they used the millage rate of 2.58 and 0.68 instead of the 2.69 and the 0.77 that was actually approved by the council. They also budgeted for a 0% uncollectible, which historically is about 3%. And then they also didn't factor in the pension funds that we see in a lot of the ad valorem taxes. So the impact to the general fund itself, when you factor in all the stuff that should have been done in the first place, we were short by about $209,000. And that's kind of just a graph of the enacted budget. So the last administration also showed about $82,000 as a projected ending fund balance. So when we do these internal corrections that we've done through a couple of the supplementals already, and then including what's in this one, we hope to have an estimated fund balance of $768,000. When you factor in the transfer out from a budget amendment that Councilman Otan made during the budget process, and then you also factor in the fact that they overstated some fines and penalties that they thought we were going to get, we actually decreased that amount by $204,000. And this is going to be the kind of the same over and over. This is the same thing for buildings and maintenance. No uncollectibles, no pensions. So we actually saw a decrease in those fund balances by about $112,000. Same thing for roads and bridges. And a lot of these are the same, so I'm going to jump to kind of the big one, which everybody tends to pay attention to, which is royalty. It'll get there. So inside the 2020 budget showed about $20,000 as a projected fund balance for, I'm just going to quit clicking, Gretchen, how about that? At about $20,000. So when we did all of our internal corrections in one of the original supplementals, 20-003, we came up with about $2.6 million. So when you factor in the 2019 budget reported at $3.8 million, and it should have been audited at 2.6. The 2019 projected at the end reported at 1.2, should be audited at 2.6, and then the 2020 proposed and acted reported as 836,000, should have been unaudited at 4.6. This is going to cause royalty to be way understated as we get in through the rest of the year as the numbers continue to come in, which, as we've seen over the last couple of months because of COVID, has actually decreased a little bit more. And we run through can you just get me to the last slide, Greg? She's going to click through, and this is kind of I think the big one, the millage recap slide that you're going to see. So once you take into account the millage rates that were approved by you guys in 2019 for 2020, the corrections that we had to make and those differences, the total overstatement of ad valorem is about $733,000 that we're not going to receive. So when we look at the capital budget and things that we knew we could get away with, we had to, off the bat, make up this $733,000, and we're trying to do that tonight. And then as we receive the sales tax report, which I think most of you, I think you guys get a copy of, Renita and her staff in finance ran the numbers for me toward the end of last week. And if the sales taxes continue to trend like they are now, which hopefully they don't as we move into hopefully phase 3 and kind of get back to a normal, if they don't trend, if they continue to stay the same way that we're looking at now, we're going to be about $500,000 short in solid waste. So you couple this 733 with $500,000, we're going to be with the $500,000 from solid waste. We're going to have to come up with over, well over $1 million at some point this year to be able to balance the budget. So we're working on that. The supplemental is the first step. We're going to work with Jerome and solid waste to figure out how we can make some changes there in anticipation of sales tax not coming in. But in order for you guys to fully understand the supplement on why we were doing it, because I know there may be some projects in there. I talked to T-Boo about some money he had for a community center. I know some of those projects may be near and dear to your hearts, but at this point, we got to be a little bit more fiscally, conservative than I think what a lot of us had hoped. And if we do pull these projects out again, I'm not saying we don't do them. I would encourage you guys to put them on the wish list and what you guys are going to submit for the 2021 budget. And hopefully by the time we get to that point, some of the work Brian and the legislature is doing on severance taxes will help get more business, get the economy back up and running. Hopefully we'll be much on a much more financial or a safe financial footing next year, as well as what we're doing. I directed Renita a couple of weeks ago as we started the budget process to where every department took a 5% cut directly off the top, and we're going to reevaluate that in the next few months to see if we should do another 5% cut as we get on to the end of the year. Lionel and Grants is doing a great job in trying to find some LGAP funding and some other things that we can do to make up some differences. So we're going to concentrate the next several months on trying to find some more grant dollars to hopefully do some of this stuff, whether we're talking boat launches through Wallet Bro or other things that we've been trying to work on. So with that, I'll take any questions if you have them, Mr. Chairman.
I'll let the public comment first. Anyone from the public wishes to comment on this ordinance? One time, 2 times, 3 times? Council. So I have a few comments. One of them is I'll mention, because this is kind of keeping in the spirit of, I did speak to the legislative auditor that we hired, the auditor that we hired on the legislative side today. And they're kind of still going through the books as well. They are pretty much at the point where they're caught up with everything. They were not expected to be at this point that they are because of COVID. The problem is they're waiting on information from other entities that are not at work right now. So they are still hoping to meet the June 30th deadline, but it's going to be really close. And the Louisiana Legislative Auditor's Office has given direction that they will be allowing emergency extensions. So they will have that ready up until the last day, but he said that's something they can file on the 29th of June. So still on course is what they're saying. I just want everyone to know that. And just as they progress, and there's not a whole lot of findings that they're having. They're moving along good, and they did want to say thanks to the administration for their efforts. In this presentation, I saw mentions about shortfall and drainage, and I know that's certainly one place we can't slow down, and especially with the rain in the last couple of weeks. And God bless our workers, because I'm friends with many of them, but they have an overwhelming task in times like the last couple of weeks when you're getting 10, 12 inches of rain. Question I have, Mr. Chesson, is I know that we engaged emergency solid waste efforts, and by and large due to COVID, is that going to be recoverable against COVID grants or no?
So we're actually going to hopefully try to put that towards the CARES Act money that Brian had mentioned. And because what we tried to make the justification to FEMA that it was mainly COVID related because everybody was home. They were doing landscaping, tree trimming, renovating their homes. And FEMA basically told us no, that wasn't going to meet those Cat B categories. So we're working with the federal side, Fred Tobridge from Congressman Scalise's office, to make sure that those are going to be CARE Act reimbursable, because we are trying and we make a very justifiable argument that it is COVID related. And I think I sent you guys the update today, but I'm not sure it had the number in it. We're at about $109,000 for that emergency contract, and they have a few days left. It was supposed to be an initial 10-day contract. They didn't quite catch up because as we picked it up, people that really didn't heed their warnings, and they started to put more stuff back out. So we extended it for another 10 days, and those 20 days are about to wrap up. And hopefully, I'm thinking because of the rain, really, we'll be able to catch up because people have stopped kind of doing some lawn and garden and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, my nearing 30 years in public service, I've never seen every other house. I walked in neighborhoods, and every other house just piles of trash that has to get picked up. It's just kind of been unbelievable. So, and absolutely, totally related to COVID. We've never seen that before.
And I will say, Mr. Chairman, very quickly that I've kind of blew through a lot of the funds just because it was going to get repetitive, and I wouldn't want to wear the public or you guys out. But I want to give a lot of props again to Renita and the staff in finance. For the last, I don't know, probably 7, 8 years, the state was actually sending us a bill for $15,000 a month for the operations of the health unit. I believe back in 2005, 2006, Ms. Randolph made the decision, as the state had some budget cuts, that we began to pay for the nurses at the health unit. That actually comes out of parish dollars because they were going to get laid off because of some of the general budget cuts. So we finally got the state to realize, after a lot of persistence from the ladies in finance, was that they were sending us that bill because the state never realized we were paying for the nurses, for their own nurses. So we realized about a $2 million windfall about the same time COVID hit. So that's where a lot of the things that we've done through COVID, the masks, the hand sanitizer, the debris pickup, the testing site cost, the cost for 8 weeks of emergency operations because of COVID, that's where a lot of that was paid out of. So we didn't have to touch the general fund. We didn't have to touch royalty. And if the CARES Act money comes in, like we all think it will, then that money is going to go right back into that fund balance, and we'll be able to recover it. So we'll be, more than healthy on the health activity side. But again, I think, we're going to get back now that we're in phase 2. I sent an email today to Dr. Jim Richardson, who you guys approved the contract for the first or second meeting in January to have a tax discussion. And I think when you look at some of the healthier fund balances, especially in health activities and some other places, this right here makes the real case for why we need some tax reform in Lafourche Parish, because we have way too much money in a lot of locations, and a lot of money we don't have in things like drainage and roads and bridges where we really need it to be able to protect our citizens more than in some other places. So this will kind of really be the starting point for a lot of those discussions.
Very good. I do remember in the last audit about the state issue, so I'm glad that's getting resolved. Any further discussion? There being none, we move this ordinance to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absent, that absent being Mr. Perillo. Item 8, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-011 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget to budget for the annual GOMESA fund proceeds and for the long-term debt interest payment for year 2020, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Councilman Jones for the administration. Second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion from the public? 1 time? 2 times? 3 times? Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that being Mr. Perillo. Item 9, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-012 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget and capital budget to budget for the purchase of portable pumps and to assist with renovations of parish government buildings, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Councilman Jones for the administration, second by Councilman Adams. Anyone from the public would like to comment? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times? Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absent. That means Mr. Perillo. Item 10, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-013 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to deobligate projects that are complete, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Councilman Jones for the administration, second by Councilman Adams. Anyone from the public would like to comment? 1 time, 2 times? Anyone from the public wants to comment? 3 times? There be none. Anyone from the council? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perillo. Item 11, ordinance accepting the subdivision known as Moss Cove Phase 2 into the parish system. Moved by Councilman Jones for the administration, second by Councilman Adams. Anyone from the public like to comment? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times? Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absent being Mr. Pearlou. Item 12, ordinance accepting the subdivision known as Old Town Phase 2A into the parish system, moved by Councilman Jones for the administration, second by Councilman Adams. Anyone from the public would like to comment on this? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, anyone from the council? Mr. Grove.
Just a quick question on both of these. When the speed limits are set for like 25 miles an hour, who sets that? That's the planning commission or the developer normally sets those? I feel like we always, I'm gonna be reducing some speed
Anyone wants to
limits.
answer that, Mr. Jones or Mr. President? Mr. Jones?
The developer get with the planning commission,
Yeah,
and they incorporate that in the ordinance of
right.
of the plan. If they want to increase or decrease speed limit, then it comes to the
us.
council.
I just find we often changing out 25 miles per hour speed limits and getting them down to 20 or 15 or whatever. And I know that's hooking up.
Yeah,
25
no.
ain't too fast, but if you're going 26, you
Yeah,
rolling.
well, this
You know,
is
I'm telling
down
you,
in the
neighborhoods.
subdivisions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 25.
Very good. Any further discussion by the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that being Mr. Pearlou. Item 13, ordinance amending ordinance number 5914 as it pertains to the proper street name of Loblolly Pine Drive that established acceptance of the subdivision known as Highland Oaks Phase 2 into the parish system. This will be moved by Mr. Wendell for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Melvin. Would anyone from the public like to comment? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times? Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that being Mr. Pearlou. Item 14, ordinance amending ordinance number 6040 as it pertains to the proper street name of Loblolly Pine Drive that established acceptance of the subdivision as Highland Oaks Phase 3 into the parish system. Moved by Mr. Wendell for the administration, second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion from the public? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, anyone from the council? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence. And I don't know how they mess it up, Loblolly Pine Drive, that's a heck of a name. All right, with that said, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing, moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Ms. Boudreaux. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that being Mr. Pearlou. Item L, proposed ordinances, Mr. Melvin.
Yes, sir, thank you. Proposed, number 15, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 1123, reducing the speed limit from 15 miles per hour to 5 miles per hour on East 65th Street, Cutoff, Louisiana, Ward 10, District 8, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit, open quote, speed limit, close quote, children at play signs, providing penalties for the violations thereof, by Ms. Boudreaux. Number 16, proposed ordinance to install no-through traffic signs on each street entering Sugar Plantation subdivision from Highway 3185 to Talbot Avenue, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 3, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of no-through traffic signs and providing penalties for violations thereof by Mr. Grove. Number 17. Okay. Oh, okay. Proposed ordinance to, number 17, proposed ordinance to install 15-mile-an-hour speed, per hour $500 fine speed limit signs on each block of Millstone Drive, Kettle Drive, and Millers Road, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 3, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of 15 miles per hour, $500 fine speed limit signs, with the fine being posted along the speed limit on each sign and providing penalties for the violations thereof. Move on, Mr. Grove, you're going to move on? Okay. Okay. Number 18, I'll have to have somebody move on this for me. Proposed ordinance to install 2 no semi-truck through traffic signs and 1 sign to be placed at the beginning of Thoroughbred Drive and 1 sign to be placed at the beginning of Supercharged Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 4, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of no semi-truck drive-through traffic signs and providing penalties for the violations thereof. Somebody. Thank you, Mr. Wendell. Number 19, proposed ordinance to establish 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on Robin Street,
to also install 2 children at play signs, with one sign to be placed at the beginning of the 100 block of Robin Street and the second sign to be placed at the end of the 100 block of Robin Street, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 1, Parish Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit and children at play signs and providing penalties for the violations thereof. Move by Mr. Jones. Number 20, proposed ordinance amending the ordinance number 3600 and amending and reenacting Chapter 24 Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to the libraries and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Move with Mr. Lorraine for the administration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Melvin. Let the record reflect that Mr. Grove had stepped out. Ms. Carleen, and he's still currently out. Item M, resolutions. Number 21, resolution opposing any and all procedures involving contact tracing in Lafourche, Lafourche Parish, allowing our citizens to resume their business, vocations, and financial obligations. Moved by Mr. Melvin, second by Mr. Adams. The record reflect that Mr. Grove has returned into the chambers. Any discussion by the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We got motion passes with 7 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Perilou and the 1 nay being Mr. Jones. Item 22, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish government and the Lafourche Parish School Board to provide food services to Lafourche Parish Head Start sites at Raceland, Bayou Blue, South Lafourche, 1, 2, and 3, and Myra G. Champagne, Lockport, 1, 2, and 3. Now authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Councilwoman Boudreaux for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed and 1 abstention? So motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that being Mr. Perilou, and 1 abstention, that being Mr. Grove. You got that, Mrs. Carleen? Okay, item 23, resolution approving agreement between Lafourche Parish government and Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office to provide food services to the following Lafourche Parish Head Start sites: Marydale, Martin Luther King, and Thibodaux, sites 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Boudreaux for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion by the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, Mr. Perilou, and 1 abstention, Mr. Grove. Item 24, resolution appointing 1 member on the Head Start Policy Council as a community representative alternate. Ms. Boudreaux for the administration. Who do you have, Ms. Boudreaux?
It's Cameron Walls.
Okay, Ms. Karen, can I get a second? Second, Mr. Lorraine. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perilou. Item 25, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish government and VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, United Way, for free tax preparations to the citizens of Lafourche Parish at the Thibodaux Health Unit, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perilou. Item 26, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish government and VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, United Way, for free tax preparation to the citizens of Lafourche Parish at the Matthews Government Complex, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. This will be moved by Mr. Wendell on behalf of Mr. Perilou for the administration, second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perilou. Item 27, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the agreement between the Louisiana Housing Corporation and Lafourche Parish Council, Office of Community Action for the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LAHEAP, grant period 10/1/2019 through September 30th of 2021, fiscal year 2020. And authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Councilman Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perillo. Item 28, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish government and the city of Thibodaux, with the city receiving 16.35% of the parish transportation revenue program, with funding paid directly to Lafourche Parish government from the Louisiana Department of Treasury for the state of Louisiana's 2020-2021 fiscal year, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perillo. Item 29, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish government and the town of Lockport, with the town receiving 3% of the parish transportation revenue program, with funding paid directly to Lafourche Parish government from the Louisiana Department of Treasury for the state of Louisiana's 2020-2021 fiscal year, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Wendell will move on behalf of the administration. Second by Ms. Boudreaux. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perillo. Item 30, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish government and the town of Golden Meadow, with the town receiving 2.5% of the parish transportation revenue program, with funding paid directly to Lafourche Parish government from the Louisiana Department of Treasury for the state of Louisiana's 2020-2021 fiscal year, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Ms. Boudreaux. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perillo. Item 31, resolution approving the agreement between Lafourche Parish government and Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office for cost sharing for Lafourche Parish Correctional Complex, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Adams for the administration, second by Mr. Jones for the administration. And Mr. President, you have some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when we came into office in January, Sheriff Weber and I had a conversation, because historically, there have always been some contested items at the jail about who pays for what, what's considered maintenance and what's not, as well as the issues with the health contract that I think happened last year, and it's happened before. It's not anything new. And then again, who pays for what with that health contract? So we sat down and figured that there had to be an easier way to do this. When you look at the state and their DOC inmates, when they transfer them to a local parish prison, the state pays a per day rate inmate that has everything encompassed into it. So working, Mitch Ogeron, our parish administrator, and Mr. Barrett Erlander, who's the sheriff's chief financial officer, sat down with Kelly and really hammered it out and came up with a per day per rate or per day rate per inmate. So it's going to make it a lot easier for us to budget. As we won't have just, correct health saying, oh, we need this, and then we get a bunch of invoices that we have to dispute, or, the sheriff's office buying something and we say, oh, well, we gotta have a dispute over this. It's gonna make things a lot cleaner. We're gonna get together on a quarterly basis. They're gonna give us an inventory of how many inmates they had in the facility, as well as their cost. They're still gonna have to show us their cost. They're gonna bid out the health contract. They're gonna do a lot of the legwork. And then Barrett and Mitch will get together once a month, or once a quarter, and kind of go through the rosters, make sure everything matches up, and then they'll generate an invoice that we'll pay. So it'll make kind of what Renita and the ladies in finance, from a correction standpoint, how that's budgeted, a whole heck of a lot easier.
Very good. Good information. Thank you, Archie. Mr. Grove.
So it's an inmate per day rate, pretty much, and it doesn't matter if it's a federal prisoner or anything, or somebody
so we
holding somewhere else?
We have always just paid for parish inmates. So if it's a federal prisoner or a DOC inmate from the state, those were never counted in what we paid for anyway, and they won't be counted in this either.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perillo. Item 32, resolution in opposition of all proposed legislation that transfers the administration and collection of local sales and use taxes to the Louisiana Department of Revenue, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Wendell for the administration, second by Ms. Boudreaux. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absent being Mr. Perillo. Orchard, if you want to make some comments, I can't see the light from here. Yeah, now I see it.
That's okay. I was just gonna say that this came to us, from the school board. They're trying to get as many local governments and school boards they can to kind of oppose that centralized sales tax. As with most things, the locals know how to do it better, especially from an enforcement standpoint and chasing down those derelict sales tax, payments. So thank you for the support. I'm sure Mr. Martin, who's the school board superintendent, would say the same thing.
Very good. Item 33, resolution amending resolution number 20-140 that approved application revision number 2 in the amount of crossed out 73,950 and changed it to $224,096 for the purpose of activities in response to COVID-19 for the Head Start program, and authorizing the parish president and council chairman to sign, execute, and administer said revision and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Boudreaux for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absent being Mr. Perillo. Item N, parish president, department heads, directors, or managers' reports, presentations, and or updates. Number 34, Department of Public Works representative to present a report. Mr. Dillon, you have the floor. While they're getting set up, I do once again want to thank everyone for wearing a mask. We certainly appreciate it. It's certainly a challenge for everyone, including myself. It's like I got double vision trying to see through those reading glasses with a mic right in front of me, like making me cross-eyed. But thank y'all. I certainly appreciate it. Also, I'll just comment too, while we're about to go into discussion, and in keeping with what we did the last few weeks when we were on the Zoom meetings, I'm going to recognize every individual council person to make sure if anybody has any follow-ups, anything was missed throughout the entire meeting. So I'll do that for the remainder of my sitting as chair, where I'll recognize each council person if they have anything they'd like to discuss or festivals they want to note or things going on in the areas. All right, you ready, Dylan?
Yes, sir. Okay, so this is the DPW presentation for June 2020, and we'll get started. This is District 1, Talbot Avenue, swept the roadside ditches. Moving on to District 2, Apple Tree Drive, the installation of a driveway culvert. Bayou Bluff South Levee, this is a new Eric Street number 2 pump that we just received from M&L. Blossom Court, we installed a culvert for right-of-way access. Choctaw South Levee, we repaired a slide and widened the curve in the levee. This is another slide we had here on Laurel Valley Levee. We did the same thing here, repaired the slide and widened the curve. Live Oak Drive, removed cattails from the ditch. Talbot Avenue Extension, patched the road. This is a Lafourche Levee District project, but with our new project managers and staff, we're getting a look at all of these things and check them out as they're built. This is the Zalman's Pump Station. As I said, it is a Lafourche Levee District project. They have removed the old station, and this is the construction of the new station. Some more pictures from it. This is a portable pump that was installed. We actually had a backup portable pump this weekend in case of storm event. Moving on to District 3, this is 12 Cedars. We dug roadside ditches. Moving to District 4, this is Dugat Canal where we removed lilies and grass. Moving to District 5, Azalea Street, swept roadside ditches. Bayou Bend Drive, removed the collapsed culvert. I'll go back. Oh. Scared to touch it now. I'm gonna go backwards, hang on. Okay, Bobcat Lane Levee, it's our tractor cutting grass. Butch Hill Pump Station, we cleaned the reservoir. District 1 of 12 Pump Station, cleaned the reservoir. Holly Street, dug roadside ditches. Highway 652 drainage ditch, swept the ditch. LaCroix Drive, swept ditches. Lake Drive Pump Station, cleaned the reservoir. Lower Pointe-aux-Champs Pump Station, painted a fuel tank. This is Cyprian Pump Station. This is the removal of pumps 1 and 2. Blanchard Canal, we cleaned the canal. I'm sorry, we moved on to District 6 with that one. This is another picture of Blanchard Canal, sweeping the canal. On St. Peter Street, we swept the roadside ditches. Natural gas pump station, we cleaned the pump canal and trash screens. This is Central Lafourche Drive, where we installed culverts and catch basins. This is a big ongoing drainage project from the previous administration that we're soon to be wrapping up. Moving to District 7, this is on Industrial Park Road, where we repaired the shoulder. This is where we cut grass along T-Bar Bridge. Valentine Pump Station, cutting the grass. This is another North Lafourche Levy District project. It's at Edna Consolidated, I guess formerly known as Parlor Rose Pump Station. You can see this smaller discharge pipe on the right picture. They've installed a smaller pump to act as what we call a stripper pump to maintain the water level in that area. This is on the Delmar Farms side. There was a culvert that went through the levee, a gate valve that fell off of it. So this is a North Lafourche Levy District project as well. And it's a culvert and gate valve replacement. It's in progress and has not been completed yet. But we've at least stopped the leak through the levee at this point. Or I should say North Lafourche has stopped the leak. Moving to District 8, this is the cutoff lift bridge. It's the guy on top greasing the bridge. East 43rd Place, swept roadside ditches. West 58th Street outfall, shred trees along the outfall. Moving to District 9, this is West 83rd Street, where we removed the collapsed culvert. East 142nd Street, swept roadside ditches. Golden Meadow boat launch, repair of the timber wharf. Mobley levee, cut grass on the levee. This is West 151st Street, installed the driveway culvert. West 163rd Street, replaced a missing stop sign. I'm sorry. What did that do? Okay, West 190th Street, installed new signs. West 214th Street outfall, swept the outfall. And this picture here is just a pretty cool picture we took right before the storm. This is the locks in Pointe-aux-Champs, at the end on Bayou Pointe-aux-Champs. Archie, myself, and Mitch took a ride out to look at Reach K and L with the local levee districts on the Marganza to the Gulf levee system before the storm. And this was actually taken on the same day that the gate was closed in Pointe-aux-Champs. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thought it was a pretty cool picture. And that's it for that presentation. I do have a few engineering projects that we're going to report on just very briefly. I'm kind of going to mimic what some of the guys already said here today. So as you saw in there, for our Cyprian pump station, pumps number 1 and 2 were pulled and sent to Bollinger Shipyard or Bollinger Machine Shop for their inspection of the pumps to look at them and tell us what's wrong with them and what's it going to take to fix them. On West 217th Street, the guys with LA Contracting did a great job. Our project manager was down there twice a week. He did a great job on the project. We were able to avoid any change orders. We addressed problems as they popped up. So I'm really happy with that. The substantial completion walkthrough was done on June 1st. No punch list items at all were observed. So they, like I said, they did a really good job on it. All the residents in the area happy. We did visit the site on 6/8 during a rainstorm, and it revealed that everything was working properly. There was no issues. Marydale Sewer Rehab. The notice to proceed was issued for 6/22, but they are going to begin the smoke tests on Wednesday of this week, tomorrow. So residents were hand-delivered letters on Monday of this week that they will be doing smoke tests. Also, the fire departments in the area were notified, so if people start seeing smoke, it's not to alarm them. A pre-construction site visit was made on today to look at everything. The priority rule list project, Mr. David already talked about that. The notice to proceed was signed for June 1st. The project is going to start tomorrow. And they're going to start doing the base repairs. And like you said, Mr. Jones, it is going to cover the plantation and arms area and the plantation against St. Bernard, also south of Hidalgo Street. Parlor Roads are the Edna Consolidated, the North Lafourche Levy District project that I showed you earlier. We are watching them currently install the stripper pump. The discharge pipe has been installed and secured. They're just installing the pump at this point. And the Zalman's pump station, the canal was actually dug out on Friday, and with Cristobal, it silted back in. So the contractor is working to redig everything he did on Friday of last week. So they're going to begin to install riprap tomorrow and the following day, and they plan to begin setting pumps in place around the 15th of this month. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Anyone got any questions, Dylan? Mr. Melvin?
Hey, Dylan, yes, real quick, I know David was here earlier and just kind of discombobulated, but do you have any news on the Percy, Fairway to Percy Brown cement line outfall?
Just what he said here, the topographic survey has been started.
Okay.
And they're working on some preliminary design.
And real quick, I know sometimes one council member might get another call because they know somebody in that district. Well, Mike got a call from someone in my district. If you're driving down Percy Brown, we know that bridge is a little crooked before those apartments on the right. Driving down Percy Brown towards the hospital. There's some vegetation or something somebody pulling out from the apartment said it's kind of dangerous because the bridge is crooked already. So I don't know if Archie could call the city, because that's actually the city. And I know you were very helpful with me before. You really were in my first term when you were Public Works Director with the city. I don't know if you could just have them take a look at it, because I'd hate to see somebody get T-boned.
I'll get with Tommy. When I drove that road, I don't know, probably 3 weeks ago, and they were spraying that big ditch where we shredded the trees.
Perfect.
So I'll follow up with you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I never pulled out of that complex before, but, so, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jones?
All right, Dylan, what time the smoke test gonna take place tomorrow?
I'm not sure. I can get you a time on that. I'm sure they're going to start first thing in the morning, though.
And they're gonna do both crossroads and all 3 streets?
Yeah, there's 66 areas that they feel like there's infiltrations now. I guess they're going to see with the smoke test what it actually takes, but they're thinking they can be done by Friday. That's their goal.
Okay. Now, when the smoke test is dead, planning on repairing just where the leaks
Yes, sir.
were?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
As far as I understand.
all right, thank you. Maybe we can give some of that smoke to Carleen to check our sewage line.
Yes, I found, there's no other discussion, I did find, interesting and a refresher on the rakes. I'll never understand why they don't take into consideration access to the rakes on these pump stations, because there's several of them you had in your photos where there's virtually no way to reach the rake, which is crazy in my opinion when it gets designed and you can't reach. That's the first thing I said about Parlor Roads. I didn't understand. First question I asked, how are you going to clean the rake? I'm not sure. Isn't that one of the more important? I also noticed that there was some significant aquatic vegetation in one of the photos, lilies, and I'll just reiterate, I know we had this discussion, getting on top of that early in the year, every year in the spring is so important. The Bayou Lafourche Freshwater District did start spraying the bayou, and then they had a motor go out on their boat, so they had to replace it. That little delay of a couple of weeks, it makes all the difference in the world in getting overrun by aquatic vegetation. But I do want to thank the Department of Public Works. Last couple of weeks, it goes to show you how far we are behind in the times in our parish, and as we continue to sink and the intercoastal continues to come up, that we're fighting a really tough uphill battle. And I think you've seen that firsthand the last couple of weeks when you get 10, 12 inches of rain. So anyway, we have a long way to go, and, but I thank you for taking that lead, Dylan. So appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? We don't have it on here for the administration, any other administration, issues while we're right here? I will say this, Archie, I do, want to thank, Jerome, with the overwhelming amount of, as I said, I walk in neighborhoods, some of the low-income neighborhoods, I walk with, the church communities, et cetera, and we walk house to house, and I've never seen so much garbage on the side of the road. It's just been unbelievable. And with these major rain events, it's unfortunate. Well, we just want to remind our residents to please don't put trash in the ditches in our drainage. Don't put anything that can float in a rain event into the drainage, because it causes us a lot of problems when we have these major rain events. With that said, I'll move to item O, discussion. I'll start on the end. Mr. Daniel, you got anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, on June the 1st, about 9 o'clock in the morning, my daughter had a little boy named Joe Joseph Sheremy, and 7 pounds. And that's also got to say that I got a little granddaughter, because if I don't say Maria, I'm going to get fussed, because she's 2.5. So she's the big sister, and he's going to be the little brother. And everybody's doing fine.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Great,
man.
great to hear that they're doing great. I have a daughter-in-law who's expecting right now, and it's been the anxiety's been pretty high because of having to do Zoom communications or whatever you call that, with their doctors, because they can't go in. So we're glad that everything's good then, Daniel.
I appreciate it. And the only thing I want to say is I'm a conservative guy. I saved my sign, so I got one ready for him when he's going to be 18. I don't know where I'm going to be.
Very good. Ms. DeLynn.
Yeah, I just want to thank Jerome, for helping us out with all those trash pickups. I know I've been ringing his phone off the hook, and also to Mr. Dillon, because same thing, for the same reasons. It's been crazy the last few months between the COVID and the heavy rains we got. We've kept our workers very busy, and I just want to thank them for all their due diligence and their hard work.
Very good. And I'll definitely restate that our poor employees, they catch heck with the community. And, Mother Nature was really a beast a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Wendell.
During the invocation earlier, I mentioned COVID, the civil unrest, and the tropical season. To add the garbage issues that we've had from day one in the past 5 months, we've really been thrown for a ringer. I just wanted to publicly say, this last weekend, we had a weather event that wasn't as bad as it could have been. We fared fairly well, thank goodness. But I spent most of the weekend, 3-4 days, quite a bit of time out in the field in the different districts. Unfortunately, the districts that I represent have been underrepresented for quite some time. They've also been semi-forgotten up to some aspects by some, I don't want to say parish services, but people within the parish administration and things. We came in here, we had open communication, we had some dialogue. It seems like the council and the administration is working great together. Several times while I was down there, I actually ran into parish administration, which was surprising to see. The people down there in those areas have never seen the councilman. Some don't know who the councilman ever was, and have never seen the parish president. Talked to Archie real quick on the phone. He was going to come and address an issue that I had, visit some people, and a pickup truck pulls up, and it's Archie, it's Dylan, it's Mitch, all of them together, a package. And that's just unheard of in some of these areas, where I was. We looked at pump stations. We stopped and talked to people with questions. We were going to stop and talk to some people who had some complaints, just to clarify some things. And just the support that these guys have given me over the last 4 or 5 days. And I know they went around the parish. There was a picture of them riding, looking at the outside the levees. But it's very refreshing, and I want to personally thank you guys, not only from myself, but from the residents of Pont-au-Chien. Texas Gulf Road, we went out there, they were in ankle-deep water, looking at a portable pump, addressing some issues. They're just making this, I don't want to say pleasurable, but easy. There's no real hills to climb when you're on a team, and that's, I think the poster child for Lafourche Strong. Same thing with Jerome and the solid waste. I hadn't talked to him much. I'm able, River Birch is actually located in Bayou Blue. It's easier for me to stop there, talk to the supervisor, but Jerome has reached out several times in support of that. some of the forgotten areas that I just spoke of, Chris with OEP was able to ensure that we had a COVID-19 test site set up in Pointe-aux-Chenes. I'd like to give him a shout out for that. Those people have never had anything like that. Once the initial parish mass distribution points were set up, Pointe-aux-Chenes was left off. Administration made sure I got the mask, and I went down there and set up a distribution site myself. Same thing with sand. When the sandbags locations were released, Pointe-aux-Chenes was left out of the loop. We were covered in Raceland, we were covered in Bayou Blue, but those guys, pulled a rabbit out of a hat, got me some sand down there, and we got the people taken care of. So very, very responsive from those guys. The guys at the parish barn, they make me look excellent. When I get 2 or 3 things on a list, I call out there, and as I'm explaining the problem, my sentence is interrupted, and you're talking about this? We did that yesterday. So, very, very responsive. I'd like to give you guys, solid waste, DPW, administration, just, thanks from me and my constituents, because we've never been treated like this before in the past. So thank you very much.
Great comments, Mr. Wendell, and thank you for being out there as well. Mr. Melvin?
Yeah, I think everybody got into gardening with the COVID thing, so that's what really, piled up a lot of, green waste. But I wanted to thank Dylan and Mitch and everyone at Archie for staying on top of it. I know sometimes you can only go in so many directions, and people are used to services and grew a little impatient due to some of the COVID things. I found that some of the questions I was asking, they'd already got onto it, and they were already working on it. So I would just ask that, so I don't go approach the landowner for right-of-ways. If y'all communicate with me, like for the one behind Wilson Street, hopefully we get that done soon. I don't want to bother the landowner if y'all were bothering, if y'all were already, talking to him. But, like I said, just moving right along, and we're just taking one day at a time. Thank y'all.
Very good. I expected a lot more on COVID, but thank you for that, Mr. Melvin. Let's move right on quick. Mr. Grove.
I was going to say thank you, kind of echoing some of the comments, Dylan. Keep passing along those attaboys and attagirls. They're doing a really good job. You need to get them a camera, though, because I know you did more work in Jones and I's district than showed. But, usually I'm so used to getting calls about, man, they came dig my ditch, and they're mad. But, these guys are digging it like surgeons. It's perfect, and the compliments I'm getting about it has been really, really good. I just want to ask, everybody to continue to pray for equality and all the injustice that's going on, for the people that have marched against things, for the peaceful marches that we've had. It's a sad state we're in, and we all created equal. We need to remember that.
Mr. Adams.
Yeah, again, I just want to thank the parish workers for the job they did this weekend. I know it could have been a lot worse than what it was, but they were ready and they were prepared. So, again, I want to thank everybody for the job they did.
Very good. Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I'd like to give a big shout out to Region A, Bourne. They did a great job the weekend. They kept me abreast. We went to the pump station. Water was kept down, and they had a really good time. I also like to thank the administration. Archie, y'all did a well job of keeping us informed. And also, I like to say, hey, thank you for putting a smile on the employees' face. They hadn't had that in a while. So the employees was happy. They was happy to be at work. So keep the good work up. Thank you.
Very good, Mr. Jones. Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo a lot of what you guys said. We have 350 tremendous employees in this organization. And they do a bang-up job every day, whether it's community services or DPW or permits or OEP or whatever. But Jerome and his staff in solid waste, and especially the guys this weekend in DPW, who worked Friday and Saturday, and I know Mr. Melvin, and I apologize in advance, I got a little tiffy with him in a text message this weekend about sandbags, but we had some issues with COVID, and typically we would hand out sandbags to most people. But because of DOC and some of the stringent rules that they had, we weren't able to get the inmates to Thibodeau and Lockport like we typically do. But our employees, again, stepped up and they humped for 2 days and made almost 20,000 sandbags. We were finally able to get a site set up at the shooting range and got some inmates, and they helped with that as well. But these guys, did a bang-up job. And it was a good test run for us. Hurricanes are simple. Chris and Eric have done this since Katrina, so they know what those protocols are. But for me, sitting in a different chair during a storm, and especially for Mitch and Dylan, kind of new to that game, these guys did a bang-up job, and we did our best, and I'm glad you guys saw that. Not only, I could care less about me, but for the guys in the field who were getting wet and getting rainy and getting full of sand, And this morning in the staff meeting, and we started those back on a regular basis, and we hope to have Ms. Carleen back once we get hopefully through another phase and Sheila in civil service. But the staff mentioned to me, you know, we're in that 6-month period, so how are we doing? And I would challenge you guys to the same question. How are we doing? If you guys have any questions or concerns or comments about how we're doing business and things, and look, we're always open to it. If we can do anything better, then please let us know. And we'll be more than happy to help and make some changes that we have to make, you know, this first 6 months has not been easy, like Jim said, between COVID and garbage issues and now tropical seasons. But you guys have made it extremely easy for us. The communication has been great from all of you, and I know it's a two-way street, and we're doing our best, and so are you guys. So thank you for all the support that you've given us as an administration and the guys out in the field, because it does trickle down. And Jerry, you're right, they're much happier to come to work, and I think we saw that this weekend in their willingness to come out and get wet and get muddy, which maybe hadn't been done in the past. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. You got a follow-up, Mr. Melvin?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Domino's. They delivered some pizzas to our barn in Thibodeau, and that was real good. Thank y'all.
Very good. Yeah, just two things I'll say, Mr. Jones, I kind of forgot about the barn in Lockport, but I guess I should give a shout out. I do thank James Barnes and David Nelson and their whole crew there, because I got a lot of phone calls in the last couple of weeks, and most of them are people I've talked to before, and most of them are issues that I know that we as a government have no intervention in. A lot of them are community drainages that run behind houses that there's no parish right of way. And you run into, you know, residents that don't want a ditch dug, they don't want the government in the backyard, so it's, and of course, the land sinking, the intercoastal's coming up, so it's quite a mess. So I thank them for dealing with those tough residents, you know, because when I explain to them, they don't believe what I'm telling them, and then I'm sure they probably go out there and the same. So that's why I say I know a lot of our workers get pushed back from the community, and it's a tough job because we're really fighting an uphill battle. Nothing specific to this administration, not the last, probably the one before that, just the way we were set up and being in South Louisiana. But the other thing I want to do is I want to recognize, Brian alluded to it, and I want to thank Archie publicly, because from my perspective, being in public service for so long, having a parish president that's in Baton Rouge is a big deal for me, and that's really where I always envisioned our parish president being. So I want to thank you specifically for that, Archie, because that's where there's funds to be had, and we've missed out on that by and large here recent. So I thank you for that effort, and don't think it doesn't go unnoticed, as Brian said, and myself here. We really appreciate your efforts in Baton Rouge and even with our federal delegation. It's really important to have that connection and that network. With that said, if no one else has anything, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Got a motion by Bo Melvin, second by Mr. Jones, that there being no further business, Lafourche Parish regular meeting of June 9, 2020 will be adjourned. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, that absent being Mr. Perilou at 6:56 p.m., Ms. Carleen.